you. Senator Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Admiral, thank you for coming before us, and thank you for your service to our country. I wanted to just get a little more clarity from you in terms of the protocols when it comes to interceptions of drug smuggling boats. So if you don't mind, can you walk me through, just as a Coast Guard is approaching a drug smuggling boat, what are the next steps that happen in terms of their protocol?
Thank you for the question, Senator. So typically the Coast Guard is performing our drug interdiction mission as a maritime law enforcement, under our Maritime Law Enforcement Authority on the high seas, and whether that's in the Eastern Pacific or the Caribbean or other locations, but principally in those areas. We normally receive information that could be from surveillance aircraft or other means that there is a suspected drug smuggling boat that is headed north, and then we will interdict that boat. Sometimes we use an armed helicopter to disable the boat, and then we will go aboard, seize the boat, and typically take a representative or take the samples, the cocaine that's on the boat if we can recover it. We'll destroy the boat as a hazard to navigation, and then we'll take the detainees who are operating the boat, and we'll process them, and then we'll take them to wherever they're going to go.
So arrest and then seek to prosecute. You said an armed helicopter. Is there a protocol for the Coast Guard to fire upon a ship with lethal force if unprovoked?
Our normal use of the Helicopter Interdiction Tactical Squadron, which are the helicopters, very specialized crews that do this work, and they are trained and they're effective at disabling the engines. The time they would use lethal force is if they were fired upon from the drug smuggling boat under our mode of operating as a law enforcement agency.
But without being provoked, does the Coast Guard have legal authority to destroy a boat or to kill the crew with lethal force if there has not been a provocation?
Well, Senator, we're operating out there under our Coast Guard Law Enforcement Authority as a law enforcement agency, a maritime law enforcement agency, and so that's not within our authority as a law enforcement agency during our Coast Guard operations under the Department of Homeland Security's authority.
In your tenure so far leading up to Coast Guard, has anyone from the Trump administration asked you if the Coast Guard is able to take action that would be against drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean?
Under our Coast Guard Law Enforcement Authority, we're continuing our maritime law enforcement operations both in the Caribbean and in the Eastern Pacific.
Have they asked you whether or not you're able to use lethal force against these boats unprovoked?
No, Senator, I haven't had that discussion about the Coast Guard doing that as a maritime law enforcement agency.
Has the Coast Guard been asked to provide resources or assets to the current military buildup in the Caribbean?
Well, Senator, the Coast Guard is a proud member at all times of military service and part of the armed forces, the joint force, and we regularly provide our forces to operate under combatant commands around the world, including U.S. Cyber Command, Northern Command, Southern Command, Indo-Pacific Command. When they operate in that mode, they operate under the authority of the Secretary of War, the Department of War. And so for any of those military operations, I would refer you to the Department of War.
Okay, thank you. In terms of questions that came up earlier about the Indo-Pacific, Senator Wicker and others have asked, I guess I just wanted to ask you, are we doing enough in the Indo-Pacific when it comes to the Coast Guard actions?
Thank you, Senator, because the Indo-Pacific for the United States Coast Guard is not just an area somewhere over there. For us, that's the U.S. homeland as well, not only because of the state of Hawaii, but also our 3 U.S. territories in addition in the Pacific. And so that's the homeland. And so we have a responsibility to protect that border in the maritime approaches as well. I had the privilege of serving out in the Oceania District based in Hawaii from 2018 to 2020. And during my time, we added 9 additional cutters, permanently based Coast Guard cutters in the Indo-Pacific because of the importance of our operations there. And with the support of Congress in fiscal year 24, we have 2 additional fast response cutters that will be permanently based out there in Guam.
And do you think that that level of resourcing and additions is enough?
Well, it continues to move us in the right direction, but I don't know that it is enough, Senator. I think we need more support. In fact, in the President's fiscal year 26 budget request, there's a request for an additional significant investment in operating funds specifically for the Indo-Pacific to increase our operations out there.
Well, I hope to be able to work with you on that. I think it's incredibly important to make sure that we're maintaining and building up that capacity. Thank you,
Thank you,
Admiral.
Senator.
With that, I'll yield back.